why is all this important? I mean, John kind of alluded to it. You know, these streams, whenever we have, and we are having more and more frequently large storm events, um, and we have these big events, more and more of the stream channel erodes. That sediment in the channel, some of it deposits out on the bottom of the stream and impairs the aquatic life that's in the stream. Some of it stays suspended in the water column and it turns the water brown. See it, and that real light sediment can be carried all the way out to the Potomac River into the, well, this drains into Rock Creek and then Potomac and then Chesapeake. Some of that suspended sediment could make it all the way into the Potomac. And the suspended sediments in the bay is one of the leading pollutants of the bay, primarily because what goes with the sediments are primarily phosphorus is attached to the small sediment particles. When that gets into a kind of quiescent water body like the bay or the tidal Potomac, it can algal growth can sort of, you'll get algal blooms because it has the nutrients there for the algae to bloom, and that creates a whole host of problems in the ecology of the bay and in the Potomac River. That is the biggest. Now, this project essentially will stop that source of sediment from this section of stream. Doesn't mean that sediment's no longer going to get into those bodies of water. There's a lot of other streams, but it's kind of a start. And in addition to that, there's not going to be the continual erosion that occurs here. Residents in this area kind of tired of seeing and feel there's a bit of a safety issue involved, and they would rather it be more stable and not losing trees every couple of years that are falling into the stream. So those are the main reasons we're doing this project, and what it's intended for.
Amy Stevens, I'm in the Watershed Restoration Division. Thank you all for coming. So we have a municipal separate storm sewer system permit, MS4, commonly section is referred to. This is issued to us from the state of Maryland. I'm not loud enough? I know, that's why I'm standing, because I don't think my voice projects. Anyway, we get this permit because this is waters of the United States, and by law, the stormwater that runs off of those rooftops can't go in there without the state telling us and authorizing us through this discharge permit. But with it comes responsibilities for pollution control, restoration, and essentially protecting our waters both from the homes, as well as from the municipal operations. So we do this work because we're trying to reduce the pollution that is getting into our local waters, as well as the bay. And so pollutions are sediment, like Doug was talking about, but it's also phosphorus, it's nitrogen. Those are the primary sources that we're trying to reduce through these projects. We do other things to reduce other pollutants, oils and greases coming off of commercial properties. That's other mechanisms, but those are the main reasons why we do restoration projects. We do it because we have an impervious surface restoration goal that we have to treat, and we have these things called total maximum daily loads. Essentially, it's a pollution diet that we are given by the state that says we have to reduce our pollutants by a certain amount to hit a goal, a waste load allocation that's been allowed to go into our streams. So those are kind of the primary reasons. There's a lot more that goes into our MS4 permit. It's pretty big. That's a huge, massive program, but we are directed by the state. They control this through their protocols and their verification steps and techniques that we have to use. That's how we credit this. It's a calculation. Because the other thing about streams is that it's not a BMP. Like you think of like a stormwater BMP. It's a restoration project. It's meant to prevent the in-stream erosion, so we don't get best management practice. John's in here telling us what to do. making sure we're not using acronyms. And please,
He's hoping to dumbify so that
I know. I'm sorry.
smart things that you all do.
I know we live and breathe this, so I do appreciate that. And anytime, please ask, because we don't think about it sometimes, even myself, whenever I'm talking. But these best management practices, like tree planting, like fire retention, rain gardens, stormwater ponds, those actually perform a treatment, which is they allow sediment nutrients to either filter out, and then they hold the water and let it release it slowly so it's not causing the erosion impact. The stream restoration is more of an actual restoration technique meant to stop the in-stream erosion, along these banks you see here, and you'll see in other examples where the stream itself is eroding. That in-stream sediment is one of the primary sources of sediment in our county, in Maryland, and in the Bay. It's not coming from our yard, so it might have been more than you were thinking. But.
No, I appreciate that. I think it's just helpful as we see these projects in action and hear about how they're going to be furthered, recognizing that this is in large part due to a state requirement and an obligation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As part of that design, we are, we've surveyed in all of the trees and the resources that are in this stream valley so that we know exactly where all the trees are. We go through several iterations of plans and placing the access road, for example, in an alignment where we're avoiding impacts to trees to the greatest extent we can. We're informed by all that information. We have it at our wayside. The project engineer takes that information into account when we put in these access roads to come in to minimize tree loss. I mean, believe me, we do not want to take out any more trees that have to come out. The ones that do end up coming out, it's just the project can't be done in a way that will stop stream erosion without taking some of the trees that are, as you can see, are right on the edge of the stream. We're going to need to, in often cases, lay back the stream some, grade it back, which will impact some of the trees. Yeah.
So, Ken Bauer. So the disconnect to me is that the source of the erosion is the uncontrolled stormwater from outside the stream, but yet an in-stream project like this does nothing to address the root cause of the problem. So why would we expect that this project won't get washed out if you haven't controlled the source? And we see projects, I've sent it probably to all the elected officials and their staff, documented evidence of projects that have been washed out all over the county, and then we, the taxpayers, have to spend millions of dollars to restore the restoration.
We are going to continue to search for opportunities in the upper watershed above here to find new opportunities for stormwater management. Some of that will occur as properties redevelop. I know there's a high school in the watershed here. I'm not sure the name of it off the top of my head. That's an example. When that redevelops, that's going to get all new stormwater management to the current standards that now exist with the ESD requirements, which is environmental site design, and that entails a lot of stuff like rain gardens.
Now the acronyms are being explained.
But Ken, I mean, we are not going to give up on providing upland stormwater management to the extent we can. And that might involve, we are actually engaged in a lot of upland restoration projects
but Doug,
with ponds.
If I may, with all due respect, we drove in through this development past hundreds of, dozens, not hundreds of homes, and every single frontage property could have a bioretention on it. It's county right of way. If DEP pays for it, you get your MS4 credits for it. Why not start at the source of the problem? I mean, this didn't happen overnight, so there's no urgency. We don't need to, do this in a 6-month project. We can do it over 10 years. There's no one's house is going to fall, and I don't understand the
Assessment identified 150 plus opportunities along the street in the right of way, not in people's yards. Of course, there's also opportunities through rainscapes, tree planting, and so on. But when you say, okay, well, on first glance, this looks like a good spot for a rain garden, and then you look underneath and say, well, there's a sewer line right here, there's a gas main, or there's the root zone of a tree that we're trying to protect, or the slopes are too steep. Those opportunities quickly winnow down. So we ended up building about 53 BMPs compared to the 150 plus that seem like good candidates. And that's a very common thing that we see, where we start casting a wide net with our Green Street projects and we end up with a fairly small number. They're still great projects. They're still improving water quality. They're essential because those watersheds, in some cases, they don't even have streams. The streams have been piped. But controlling water quality is not the same thing as controlling water quantity. And it's the uncontrolled quantity that results in what we've seen here and in many other streams in the county.
But Phil, we know these projects don't work. They're getting blown out and they're having
That's
to
not
be.
true.
I have pictures from all over the place.
Yeah, but they do work. They are stabilized. We have pictures as well, and of projects that are stable and are working and do look good. You can be selective about your pictures equally as much as we can too. The point is, we have to stabilize this stream because there's two root causes here. It's not just the fact that there's stormwater shooting in. It's the fact that these streams are creating their own sedimentation. We have to stop that. We shouldn't wait for that because it's our job to protect these streams as well. So we have to balance both objectives. We have to control stormwater, but we also need to protect our streams.
Yeah, I was going to keep quiet and just listen, but now I'm confused as to the legal and factual basis of this whole thing, because from what I understand, this is not a state mandate, it's a federal mandate to comply with the Clean Water Act, and that's why we're spending $500 million at the county level, otherwise we will get sued. And it was by an act of Congress we defined what stormwater is. It's point source pollution. That means it needs to be controlled at the source. An act of Congress defined this so we can settle this debate. And so that's why I'm confused why we're still having this debate, that this is somehow also a cause of pollution. No, this is the effect of pollution, uncontrolled pollution from the driveways and the roofs. So I'm surprised that we're still having the debate that the leaky ceiling stains on your roof that are there because you have a leaky roof are the cause of your problem. No, if you keep painting over your living room ceiling, you're not going to solve your problem. Your problem is the leaky roof, and that's what needs to be addressed, and that's what's been settled long ago by Congress. So I'm confused why we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars addressing the effect and not the cause. Please, the floor is yours.
You're right. The Clean Water Act identifies point source pollution. Typically, that's end of pipe. So you think of industry, that's point.
No, it's the driveways and the roofs. That is not factually accurate. That is not factually accurate. Look at your own guidance.
It's also called non-point source pollution, and that's what you're referring to.
Not for the purposes of the MS4 permit. The documentation is clear. I can cite every statute.
But they consider the municipal storm sewer system to be a point source system, and the county must be covered under that. And then we do this work to control the non-point stormwater that comes from our roof tops and our impervious surfaces. I get it. It's confusing. I did not write the Clean Water Act. I do not write municipal storm sewers MS4 permits. But I can tell you that the reason why we're doing this is because of what's coming from our storm drain systems into our streams. And that's what's coming off of our rooftops and our driveways and our patios and our streets and our sidewalks.
And those are the sources of pollution. So we need green roofs, we need vegetated roofs, we need pervious pavements, we need rain gardens, bioswales. We need to address this at the source. All this conversation, I don't understand why we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. Although honestly, I do, because the first MS4 permit cycle, we spent dredging ponds, and we simply ran out of ponds to dredge. And that's why we're wasting our time with this. You are exposing the county to legal action, okay? Just because there's not a single environmental group that'll take you on right now, nature abhors a vacuum. Sooner or later, somebody's going to go after the county for this, and the taxpayer is going to be on the hook because we're painting over the leak stains on the ceiling instead of fixing the roof. Thank you for letting me talk.